Hello and good morning. I'm Javanka McGee, co host of Vision Pros Live. Thank you for choosing to be with me. Please share with me your first, your last name, where you're located, and what you'd like to talk about today.
My name is Yvonne Caputo. I am located in southeast Pennsylvania, near Philly. And what I want to talk about is death and dying.
Did you guys hear that? I know if you're listening, you're like, what? Yes, straightforward, death and dying. Yvonne, let's go ahead and have that conversation. Let's get it started. First would be the reason why that's the topic of discussion.
I love the idea of being passionate about something. And then recently, someone tagged compassion with passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about death and dying is one of the most compassionate things that we can do. When I worked in a retirement community, I was on an ethics board. And we had a resident in nursing who was in the end stages of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And she couldn't speak for herself. And she developed, ulcers on her foot. And the doctor wanted her to have antibiotics and foot baths to see if they couldn't cure the ulcers. Her daughter, who was her healthcare agent, and for your audience, that means a legal spokesperson for her mother, said, "No, I don't want those things because quality of life is important to my mom, and she has an advance directive, which is the legal document that says quality of life."
Mm-hmm.
However, in the state of Pennsylvania, quality of life is not in the law.
Mm-hmm.
So the case went to the court,
Okay.
and
Yes.
the court said there will be a surrogate to allow for the foot baths and antibiotics. And then if they don't work, then the daughter can take over and allow the death to occur.
Okay.
My father was a brittle diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
He had lost my mother, and I thought, "Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
does dad have a document that would cover what happens to him at end of life?"
Yes.
I called him on the phone and I told him what an advance directive was. I told him that I would find an attorney in my hometown
Mm-hmm.
and that I'd come home and we'd do it together. So that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And about maybe 4 or 5 years later, I became aware of a document called the Five Wishes. And
Mm-hmm.
it's an advance directive on heart.
Okay.
And when I finally sat down and looked at it, I went, "Oh my, this asks all kinds of questions that dad and I have not talked about."
Mm-hmm.
So, driving 6.5 hours across the state, going back to dad's house, and he was in the hospital at the time, and sitting down and doing this document with him was one of the most sacred times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
"Dad, how do you want to be remembered?" "I want to be remembered for my work with the Red Cross." "What do you want your children to know?" "I want my children to know that I love them and that I know that sometimes I made mistakes."
Mm-hmm.
"What do you want your funeral to be like?" My dad was Roman Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
so he wanted a high mass. He wanted my husband, who's got a glorious tenor voice, to sing. He chose the Ave Maria, the Lord's Prayer, and Amazing Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where my passion comes from, because dad called me maybe 6 years later,
Mm-hmm.
and he had just been released from the hospital. He was so angry. I was holding the phone out here because he was screaming at me.
Mm-hmm.
"Why did you let them send me home?" When he calmed down, I said, "I told the social worker you could go home when you were ready.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like you're ready, Dad." Then he said, "Yvonne, I'm scared. Can you come home?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I made all kinds of arrangements for somebody to stay with him overnight, all that kind of stuff. And then the following day, I drove back to my hometown, and 2.5 hours later, he was gone.
Mm.
And the neighbors had come from across the street. These were dad's in home caretakers. And we heard a thump.
Mhm.
Went back to the bedroom. There was dad face down on the floor.
Mm.
So I'm not a nurse. I'm not a healthcare professional. So called 911. They came. I ended up having to call the hospital because every time dad was in, I made sure there was a do not resuscitate order on his chart.
Yes.
And I asked them to get that order to the emergency room. But the grace of God was with me because the emergency room doctor called the EMTs and said, "You can stop working on him."
Mhm. Mhm.
I laid down beside him. I put my arm over his chest. I talked to him and said, "I love you. I know you want to be with mom." And then I did what was the glue in our family, the Lord's Prayer.
Mm.
And he was gone. And the EMTs came and picked him up, put him on a gurney, and took him feet first out of his own home. Now, that was dad's request. That was
Mhm.
a part of all of this work that he and I had done together. And if you can imagine, this is northwestern Pennsylvania. The snow's coming down an inch an hour because it's January.
Mhm.
The EMT set the gurney down, and the doors of the ambulance are open wide. So there is this light falling on my dad's face.
Mm.
And there's this soft, sweet smile.
Mm.
And I went, "Yes." And the
Mhm.
EMTs looked at me like I'd not had any marbles to begin with. And I said to them, "You did what dad wanted, feet
Yeah.
first out of his own home." So, the reason for all of this story for your listeners is my grief journey with my father is vastly different from the grief journey of losing my baby brother and
Mhm.
losing my mother.
Absolutely.
There's such sorrow that I had to work through with those two. And yes, I had to work through sorrow with dad,
Yeah.
but I had a profound, sacred joy.
Yeah.
Joy.
Yeah.
And that still is with me. I
Yeah.
mean, there are times when something will come up and I'm a blubbering idiot because I miss him.
Yeah. Yes.
I miss him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, equal to that is the joy I feel because he trusted me with that last journey. And,
Yes.
and what more could a daughter want than that intimate trust that I would take care of him when he needed me most? So that's my story.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing. I know that it's a hard story, and as you were speaking, my grandmother had passed probably about 4 years ago, and I can understand that, you know. I could totally understand the process and things that you had an opportunity to do, but we totally missed out because we didn't have this discussion. This isn't a discussion that most people like to talk about early on or end of death. When my grandmother passed, I have to say out loud, I was happy. I was happy because she was tired, she was exhausted, you know, and those that for our family and the situation we had gone through, we keep wanting them to survive. Don't let go, don't let go, hold on, hold on. And the truth is that when they're exhausted, they're exhausted. And I've learned that there comes a selfish moment when you want to do something different than what they ask. And that
Mhm.
selfish moment is you holding on to them, but they're done with life and living. So I have some understanding uh, of what you're saying. You just had a more profound and and a way of being able to do that with a subtle conversation, because those are conversations that need to be had across the board, whether they're later on in life or just even now, those are conversations that need to be had. With that said, you have two books.
I do.
You do. You have two books that you talk about. Flying with Dad. Is that one of them?
Flying with Dad is the first,
Okay.
and it came as a result of my father telling me World War II stories.
Mm-hmm.
Never spoke about them, and I'm a history buff. So I captured those stories, and somewhere along the line, I said, I've got a book. I just knew that these stories were so good, they were so unique. Secondarily, but more importantly, those stories became the bridge for Dad and I to become intimate co partners,
Mm-hmm.
intimate daughter and father. Dad was greatest generation, food on the table, roof over our head, all those kinds of things. Talk to me about important things? Not so much.
Yeah.
But in the development of this book, he began to trust me in a way that I'd always wanted. And it was because I listened. I
Yes.
sat back and listened and made him the sole spotlight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was how this all started. So, readers of the first book, because I described Dad's death in
Uh-huh.
the first book, they started saying to me, how'd you do it? Didn't you want him to stay?
Yeah.
Where'd you find the courage? Why didn't you intervene and say no?
Yeah.
And that's the impetus for the second book because I didn't want to say no.
Yeah.
I knew what Dad wanted,
Mhm.
and I went on honestly automatic pilot.
Yeah.
How do I honor what my dad asked me to do?
Yeah.
And that's where the second book came from. And I want to step back just a little bit in that I learned really to be comfortable talking about death and dying, A, because I'm a psychotherapist,
Yes.
B, because I worked in a retirement community.
Yes.
My door was open, residents would walk in, they'd sit down, we'd start talking, and all of a sudden, Yvonne, I want to go. And
Mm-hmm.
my response was, tell me. And what you said about your grandmother, I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
The love of my life is gone.
Mm-hmm.
My friends are all leaving. I'm not doing the things that I love to do.
Yes.
Yesterday, I visited a 108-year-old veteran, World War II
Mm.
veteran,
No way.
and we've been partners for about 5 years. He wants to go.
Yeah.
He talks about it all the time, and when he does, I sit and listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he feels useless. This is a man who was vibrant and did things and worked as a firefighter, just all kinds of stuff. He was never still.
Yeah.
And now he sits. And
Yes.
of course he wants to go. And you're right about selfishness. For me to say to him, oh, don't say that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's selfish on my part.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough conversation. It's because we don't fathom the missing part, right? There's this thought. It's like I remember after she passed, I worked at probably about 45 minutes to an hour from my job and lived. And I picked up the phone one day and she passed, and that's who I was calling. But it's still, I don't have to pick up the phone now. You know what I mean? I just talk. I could just have this conversation. There's something different about that. And as I mentioned to you before, me being an organ tissue and eye coordinator for almost 7 years, that conversation didn't often have to do with end of life. These were conversations that happened during accidents that uncontrolled, or and then how dare someone call and ask those type of questions. But regardless, Yvonne, it's amazing that you've decided to have these conversations more so, not to mention on podcast and in the book. And I'm sure people are just talking to you in general because death is inevitable. It's inevitable. So it's a conversation that needs to be had. And as you continue having these conversations, Yvonne, tell me about your vision in this all.
My vision is for talking about death and dying is a normal part of the conversation we have.
Mhm. Mhm.
It is, um, there was a young woman in her 40s who always shut that conversation down. She read the book and said, and then went immediately to her parents and said, I'm ready. Let's talk about the end.
Yeah.
There was an 85-year-old gentleman who read my book and said, I didn't know about an advance directive.
Mhm.
He did it. And then he said to his daughters, on my birthday, I want a Zoom call and I want to talk about the 5 wishes.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then the most profound one was a woman in my writers group, acute illness, pain and suffering for 10 years. And when she learned about the 5 wishes, she did it with her family. And I
Mm.
received a call that she was choosing palliative care. She was choosing
Mhm.
hospice. She was
Mhm.
choosing it. So I had an opportunity to spend 8 minutes with her on a Zoom call. And
Mhm.
she just kept saying, thank you for the 5 wishes. Thank you for the 5 wishes. We've talked about it. My family is ready. They understand why I want to go. So that's my passion, is that we have those conversations. And my 5 wishes are done.
Yeah.
My advance directive is done. I have talked to my kids about it very, very openly. I bring it up and bless them. They talk back, you know. So yes, it's a little bit of a push to get over it. And I'm not saying push, push, make it happen. No, I think both sides have to be willing to do it.
Yeah.
But it will be a conversation that will light you up for the rest of your life.
Yes. Yes. And you said one key thing is that both people have to be willing to have that conversation. But if I may also say, if you have it, just fill it out and maybe make the conversation a little bit easier for when you are approached, or personally that there's something that's happening that you could just give, because it still is a conversation. There's so many things we miss, when we wait later in life to do those things. It's so much we miss.
My brother read the book, Dying
Mhm.
with Dad.
Mm.
And he said, when should I do this? And I said, now. you know, um, my granddaughter was diagnosed with leukemia
Mm.
in her senior year in high school.
Mm.
She had to do it when she was in the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the idea of now. Now, I've had lots of people who've said to me they've ordered the 5 wishes and it's in a drawer, you know.
Yes.
But finally, they take it out. And my best friend said her conversation with her daughter around the 5 wishes was the most intimate conversation she's ever had with her daughter.
Yes.
There's a beauty. It's okay. Patricia Sun, psychologist, her statement: sound mental health is the ability to contain the paradox. That's a
Mm.
mouthful. You can
Yes,
and you
ma'am.
can't, you will and you won't, it is and it isn't.
Yes.
To talk about willingly, again, willingly about death and dying can be a sorrowful yet very joyful thing to do.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
paradox.
It's yes. And I believe that it could be much easier if you take self out of it and truly have that conversation as wanting the information and desiring the information, and just beating the clock before the clock just happens. It's, I don't know, it's, and as I mentioned, this isn't, even as an organ tissue and eye coordinator and being a case manager for HIV, AIDS, substance abuse, and mental health, it is still not the best conversation for me. And I can only imagine someone who is listening right now that's like, hey, I'm gonna just listen to this and walk on the treadmill and boom, be hit with this conversation that they didn't expect. But I strongly believe that when you hear this, if you're listening to this now, there's no better time than now. And I'm sure Yvonne would say the same thing.
The Five Wishes document is legal in 42 states, as I
Hmm.
understand it now. It's
Okay.
$5. Fivewishes.org. It's $5 for the pamphlet. And it's so much broader than a normal advance directive. When my father said, I want to be remembered for uh, my work with the uh, Red Cross, when I was writing the first book, I had to do some research because I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to the Red Cross office where my father would have been a volunteer.
Hmm.
41 years of his life he spent working with the Red Cross. 41 years. So it rounded out my understanding of who my dad was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that in and of itself was a gift because it helped me to let go of some of my childhood sorrows because I understood
Mhm.
my father from a different perspective.
Yeah.
He came home with PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And that and some other things that happened in his life helped me to understand the source of his anger.
Yes. Yes. And interesting enough, you don't have to wait till later on in life to actually find that. So what you're saying is it's therapeutic. It could be therapeutic. It could be the point of letting go and moving forward. Wow, never even thought about it that way.
Yeah. When I do book events, and I love it when people have read the book because then we can get into some really, really wonderful conversations. And there were three young ladies sitting, and they hadn't made any comments. Now,
Mhm.
I was a former teacher, so I'm not going to let them get away with that.
Yes, yes.
So I called on all three. The third one made me tear up, and
Mm,
it will make me tear up again. She said, by reading Flying with Dad, she understood that she didn't have a good relationship with her father,
mm,
and that if she wanted to have one, she had to go to him.
mm, mhm,
So she was purposely spending more time with her dad
mm, mhm,
to
mhm.
cross that bridge.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's what having these conversations can do. For a resident to come in and sit down with me and say, I want to go, that's a trust level that is just God given.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. To find out more about your book, because I'm wondering if there's anyone who's listening that's like, I would be interested, much like I am. Please share with me the website and or social media handles that someone could find out more information about the book, you, and or even get in contact.
All right. So the website for my book is my publisher, ingeniumbooks.com.
Okay.
My email address is Yvonne at YvonneCaputo.com. You can get the book on internet sales. You can go to your local bookstore, yay, yay, and ask them to
Yeah.
order it for you. Um, those are the ways that you can read. And Dying with Dad, the second book, I see as joyful. It's just
Mm.
filled with joy.
I love that. I love that. Well, Yvonne, thank you so much for choosing to have this discussion with me, choosing to sit with me, and choosing to be vulnerable, educated, and loving enough to have this conversation that most do not. I thank you. I see your vision. I understand your vision. And changes, changes are made, I'm sure with people just listening to it and in me. So thank you so much, Yvonne. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my vision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.